Hello, everybody. This is Pip,
And this is Kiki.
and we're back playing Remember 11. Um, we're in the cabin, and that's all that's really going on right now. So let's get back into it. Falling into autism. That's quite a title. Have you calmed down?
Yes? After my outburst ended, I felt embarrassed right away. It was a little awkward. Yomogi stared at the wall, seemingly half shy and half shocked. Inside the cabin, the silence continued. I drank the last of the chamomile tea and found myself with nothing else to do. Um,
Clinging is prohibited.
Perhaps he was the type to hold a grudge. That's not it.
Hmm?
What are we going to do from now on?
What you say?
It's not like we can stay in this cabin forever, right? You must have some good ideas, right? You're a pro mountain climber after all.
Sorry.
Yamagi shrugged his shoulders. Don't you know where we are? For example, a mountain you visited in the past?
I'd be happy if a coincidence like that happened, but unfortunately, in that snowstorm, finding out the specific location was.
That's right. Isn't there anything we can use in this cabin, like a map?
I've already searched everywhere.
I was at a loss. I was happy before, but our situation might even be more hopeless than I imagined. I searched in my pocket for anything that might serve as a clue. All I found was a voice recorder. I guess that was to be expected. After all, if something I'd been carrying had turned out to be a clue about this cabin, it'd just be scary. The playback display only reads DATA Data 1 and Data 2. Having recorded Data 1 myself, I already know that was what was on it, but I played it back even so. I'm a seagull. These were the words uttered by the first woman in space, Valentina Tereshkova. All alone aboard the former Soviet Union spaceship Vostok 6, floating in the void of space, a place of complete silence and emptiness. It was my voice, although that was obvious. And then Yomogi too took out something that appeared to be a machine from his breast pocket. While continuously staring at it, he shook his head slightly and laid it on the table. At first, I thought it was a wristwatch, but it was a little bigger than an ordinary watch. It also had so many different attachments that it looked like it could be cumbersome. Was it some sort of computer terminal? The liquid crystal display was showing figures that I didn't know the meaning of. What's that?
A GPS. Well, simply put, it's a device that shows the coordinates of our current position.
Huh? Isn't that great?
It would be if it worked.
Meaning,
Things busted.
heartbroken, I dropped my shoulders.
The shock of the crash was probably what did it in. It isn't completely broken, but it only displays messed up coordinates.
As for fixing it,
If I could do that, I would have a while ago. And this thing was pretty expensive, too.
Yomogi let out a sigh. I sat back down in the chair. I wish he wouldn't thoughtlessly show me broken and useless things. The momentary hope I had caused my despair to return stronger than ever. My tongue sharpened with disappointment. I began to murmur sarcastically. Then, why are you still holding on to something like that?
It's an old habit. I'm always carrying it around after all.
Yomogi looked at it with a bitter smile as I tilted my head. What a weird old guy. A normal person wouldn't carry something like that around.
Well, as to our location, I've considered a few things.
Yes?
I've tried to remember the situation before the crash. I don't think 2 hours had passed from the time we took off from Hanada to the crash. It was about 1 to 1. Oops.
It was about 1 to 1.5 hours, right?
If I were to guess from the flight's course, I'd say there's a high chance that we're on a mountain in Tohaku. Amori, Akita, Iwate. Most likely around somewhere around there.
Weird names. It's no good. That's too vague.
Because in Japan work. The air is thin, so I think we're pretty high up. It'll probably take a while for our rescuers to arrive.
After saying that, Yamagi smiled as if to comfort me.
Hey, don't worry. The fact that there's a cabin, it means that this is a place where people come.
Hearing that, I mustered a thin smile in return. Of course, I wasn't reassured by what Yamagi said, as I thought the situation was pretty bad. Is this place really in Japan?
That's an odd thing to say. Why do you ask?
Somehow, it feels like this isn't reality.
For a lady from the big city, it's not odd that you'd think that.
Hearing his slightly teasing tone angered me just a little. In that case, it was like I was totally helpless by myself, wasn't it?
I know where this place is.
Uni slowly got up from bed. Though he still seemed partly asleep, he spoke with a conviction as he rose.
It's called Mount Akakura.
Huh? I looked at Uni's face, surprised. Yamagi was wearing a perplexed expression as well.
How do you know that?
Uni's thin lips curled into a smile. His face without glasses was the most childish I'd ever seen it. Even so, with a distant look in his eyes, he laughed as if he was one who understood everything. I thought his facial expression was strange somehow. My spine suddenly tingled. Uni? Uni stood up unsteadily without answering. Walking uncertainly, he turned to the entrance. Uni!
Hey, where are you? Come, follow me.
Uni smiled again. He was facing us, but his eyes weren't focused on us. Where is he looking?
I'll tell you.
Uni opened the door. Strong wind and snow blew into the cabin. Uni's figure disappeared into the white landscape.
Hey, wait!
Yamagi went after him, with me following right behind. The snowstorm hits my cheek with amazing force. Pain. More than the cold, what I felt was pain. I couldn't see in front of me. My eyes wouldn't open at all. Uni! I tried to yell, but my voice was erased by the wind. Uni! And then something pulled at my hand. I looked up and saw Uni.
There.
His finger pointed to beside the cabin's entrance. I saw something with my freezing eyes. Mount Akakura Emergency Shelter Cabin.
Ha 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 ha. That was quite a trick. I didn't notice it at all because of the snowstorm. You got me. Hee hee.
Geez, Uni, don't scare me like that. In the short time I had been outside, my body had become frozen through and through. It It was impossible to keep the shivering out of my face, or out of my voice. Forgetting to wipe off the snow that clung to me, I rushed to the stove.
What do you mean?
Never mind, it's nothing. Uni squinted and followed me. His eyes seemed to swim.
Hey, before that, glasses, my glasses.
Oh, sorry. I picked up the glasses from the table and returned them to him. What? What's all that fuss about? Mayuzumi had gotten up. Yumagi explained to her about figuring out where we were. That means we can escape now, right?
Escape?
We know where we are, right? We can climb down now, can't we? It certainly felt like what she said was overly obvious.
No, it's impossible.
Why?
All we know is the name of the mountain. I've never been here before. We don't know the route down.
Mayuzumi pointed in Yuni's direction with her chin. That brat over there has a compass, right? If we use that... It seems the conversation between Yumagi and myself earlier had reached her ears all right. However, Yumagi shook his head and glared balefully at the doorway.
If we could do something just because we had a compass, we wouldn't be having any trouble. Walking around in that blizzard would be suicide. Waiting quietly to be rescued is the best plan.
Displeased, Mayuzumi let out a snort and again retreated to the top bunk. Continuing her nap, maybe. I kind of understood how she felt. We now know the name of the mountain we're on, but that didn't lead to any sort of solution at all. I continued to try to think of something else we could do. However, everything I thought of, Yumagi had already tried. It seemed there was no method to establish contact with the base of the mountain. Fortunately, the cabin's basement still had a decent stock of firewood remaining. If there's some fire remaining, then we're all right when it comes to water. We just have to melt some snow. It wasn't a great amount, but there was a supply of food stored in there as well. If we ration it with 4 people, we can endure for 4 days, said Yumagi in any attempt to keep my courage up. After that, all we can do is wait patiently for the blizzard to stop and the rescue team to arrive.
Hey, I'm hungry. That's right, let's eat.
I'll help.
Haha, there's nothing you can really help with.
While laughing, he picked up the cardboard box in the corner of the room. I followed behind him. I peeked into one of the 3 cardboard boxes that were there. Inside were a number of little packages, each smaller than a fist. There were freeze-dried emergency provisions. There was a stew, seasoned porridge, and rice. I took one into my hand and checked the expiration date. It seemed to be totally fine. It seemed freeze-dried food could be preserved for up to 10 years. I'm thankful for the wisdom of mankind. Besides those, we found some hardtack biscuits as well. Feeling slightly nostalgic, I...
Try eating the hardtack, or I won't eat it after all. I think it's a cookie.
Why don't we try to eat it? Yummy, yummy. I opened the packaging and put some of the hardtack into my mouth. There was no taste at all. The moisture inside my mouth was sucked away, drying it out completely. Yuck! They were emergency rations, so I guess that was to be expected.
Hey now, they are precious rations, so value them more.
That's right, we only have 4 days worth of food. I'm sorry.
Ah, lucky you, Kokoran. I want some too. No way, this is confiscated. Stingy.
Yumogi placed the biscuits back into the cardboard box. Yumogi pulled out an aluminum pot from the box beside it. It seemed somewhat flimsy, but if all we'd be using it for was heating things, then it was just fine.
Well then, please put some snow into the pot.
Got it.
I'll go.
Uni snatched the pot from my hand. Geez, Uni. Ignoring my cry, Uni walked nimbly to the entrance. When he opened the door, another freezing gust blew in. It's cold, Mayazumi complained from her bed. Inside the cabin, the wind swirled the snow it was carrying around. Carried by the wind, a newspaper flew out of a box and fluttered in the air. I picked it up without a second thought. And then one of the articles inside caught my eye. July 4th, Monday, 2011. Hisai 23. 3 decomposed male and female corpses found on Mount Akakura.
I think it's corpses.
Corpses. Same thing. Missing passengers from the HAL crash. My throat went dry. My heart was pounding like a hammer. It wouldn't calm down. It's strange. Something was strange. There was something wrong with this newspaper. Date? Yes, it was the date. Today's date is in Heisei 23. In other words, it should be January 11, 2011. However, this newspaper is dated July 4th, 2011.
What the heck?
That shouldn't be. It's impossible. My breathing became pained. Wheezing sounds came from my throat. It was like my body wasn't my own. The hand holding the newspaper was trembling. Even so, I frantically read the article. The Amori Prefectural Police announced the recent discovery of the remains of 3 men and women on Amori's Mount Akakura, believed to be victims of the crash of Flight HAL-18, which claimed 27 lives last January. As they had undergone extensive decomposition over a period of 6 months, the identities of the bodies are unclear. But they are assumed to be the last 3 unaccounted for among the missing passengers and crew members on HAL-18. The bodies were discovered 1 km east of the Mount Akakura shelter cabin. It has been confirmed that the 3 bodies, which sustained a large number of lacerations in an avalanche days after the crash, are those of the survivors. However, due to the bodies of the victims being discovered away from the route down the mountain, the Amori Prefectural Police investigation into the day of their death will continue. According to the MRI Weather Observation Department, an avalanche affecting Mount Akakura and its surrounding area occurred on January 17, 2011 at around 6:53. After analyzing the traces left at the Mount Akakura shelter cabin, it was concluded that those who had used it survived for 7 days after the crash. The horrific crash of Flight 18, with the discovery of the 3 bodies, claimed 30 lives out of 31 crew members and passengers aboard. 30 deaths. Saved was the sole survivor of the crash, Kasuda Unikun. 11. What's happening? What is this? My voice grows hoarse. My entire body begins to tremble. It's weird. As I thought, this newspaper is weird.
Yeah, so weird. a newspaper from the future. That's weird. Hey, what's wrong? Hey.
Someone was calling for me. The voice seemed far away. My shoulders trembled. I shook that off, but the trembling ran to my fingertips instead. The identity of the 3 discovered bodies. They are Yumogi Saiji-san, 35. Mayuzumi Lin-san, 23. Fuyukawa Kokoro-san, 20. Everything turns black. From within the core of my brain, my consciousness recedes to somewhere far, far away. Is this a dream? Yes, it's a dream. If it wasn't, I'm... We're gonna die? As I thought that, an intense feeling of anger boiled over from within me.
Sound pretty angry. Just read.
Lies, lies. It's obvious this thing is lying. It's a lie. It's a lie. This has to be some sort of mistake. I tried to blot it out, and then I gripped the newspaper more tightly.
What?
The end. Huh? My body flinched in surprise at hearing this sudden sound. There were fragments of a broken cup at my feet. Why were there cups? Had there even been any cups like this in the cabin? No, I shouldn't have been holding any cups in the first place. What I was holding was that cryptic newspaper.
What are you doing?
Surprised again, I turned my head in the direction of the voice. What's wrong? Are you okay? All of a sudden, I saw the brown-skinned woman who had slapped me in my dream. Where? I was confused. Sort it out. I have to sort it out. The things inside my head, sort them out. The more I tried, the more of a mess it seemed to become. Calm down. Calm down, Fuyukawa Kokoro. Then the brown-skinned woman rushed over to me. Could it be that your body still hurts, but the pain reliever should still be in effect? Where does it hurt? She peered weirdly at my face. Where does it hurt? Nowhere, really. I shook my head reflexively. I see. You surprised me. The woman knelt in front of me and started to pick up the fragments of the broken cups. She glanced at me, then looked at me with a worried expression on her face. You aren't injured? Her kind behavior left me bewildered. It was totally different than before. What is this? I asked as I shied away from the woman.
How careless.
Uni was there. He looked at me with a teasing smile. I surveyed my surroundings. It wasn't the shelter cabin. Something came back to me. This room, too, had been in the dream I had before. Inside the room, there were 2 people besides myself. I remember seeing these 2. The 2 people are the same as in the dream from before. The brown-skinned woman and Uni. In addition, beyond the living area, a single girl casually appeared. I remember seeing the girl too. Inubushi Kaikiko. Everyone stared at me with suspicion in their eyes. What's happening?
That's my line. What happened, Satoru?
Satoru? It was a name I've heard somewhere before. But where I heard it, I can't remember. Or is it just my imagination? The name Satoru is pretty common. No, something like that doesn't matter. Just what does this mean? If I remember correctly, I was reading a strange article in the newspaper. In the article, it had information about the plane crash, as well as information about Uni being rescued. And it was written there that I was going to die. I don't remember anything after that. I was at my wit's end. I wondered what happened to me after I saw the newspaper. I wondered what I did then. Are you really okay? The brown-skinned woman softly placed her hand on my shoulder. No. I shook it off unintentionally. However, I saw the woman's uneasy expression, and what I did became inexcusable. I'm sorry. I was probably seeing the same dream again. The dream I'd had before I regained consciousness in this shelter cabin. That time I saw my own appearance in the glass. It can't be. That shouldn't be. Praying that, I ran over to the large window on the south side of the living area. The window should reflect my appearance like a mirror. It certainly did reflect it. Not me, but a man I'd never seen before appeared there. In the last dream, the last thing I saw was this man. No way! Lies! It wasn't a lie. The man reflected in the window made the exact same movements as myself. He shook his head as if saying, "No, no," and covered his mouth in shock. And I saw myself right away. This is me? That shouldn't be. Something like that can't possibly be.
Satoru, what's wrong?
Uni stood right beside me. He looked up at me. It felt as if Uni had grown shorter somehow. Uni had gotten smaller. No, it was me who had gotten bigger. Where is this place? I grabbed Uni by his slender shoulders. Violently shaking, I questioned him. Uni's face became distorted.
It hurts, it hurts.
Stop it. Don't use violence. The brown-skinned woman clung to me.
It hurts, it hurts.
Suddenly, tears started flowing from Uni's round eyes. I became panicked and released him. Strange. I don't remember gripping him that tightly. Hey, please, someone answer me. Where is this place?
I don't know.
Huh.
Don't get mad, I really don't know.
I turned to the brown-skinned woman. I asked with my eyes. An institution. There was an unpleasant feeling in the woman's tone. Institution? What institution? She turned her eyes away from me. The next word out of her mouth was a shocking one.
Sophia.
Sophia? Huh? Sophia, that's all I need to say, right? Sophia, you say? Of course, I know of an institution called Sophia. The place where Inibishi Kiko was being held. An institution where the mentally unsound were isolated. The place where I was supposed to go. If the airplane accident hadn't occurred, I would have arrived at Sophia with no problems. Are you saying this is Sophia? Why am I at Sophia?
Satoru, You should know that, right?
Uni had become frightened by my violent attitude from a little while ago. Hey, Uni, you've been saying Satoru since before. What are you talking about?
Huh?
Uni's eyes widened. Following his gaze, my eyes met the glass window that had reflected the figure of the male me. Even now, there was a man standing beside Uni after all. It wasn't reflecting me. Uni's eyes were looking at the man reflected in the window. In other words, Satoru is me? I approached the window one more time. I was being looked at with eyes I've never seen before. It was quite a fearless face. Cheeks and nose, mouth and forehead. I touched everything I saw. The man reflected in the mirror made the exact same movements. As a test, I stuck out my tongue. The man did the same. Contemptuous laughter resounded in the air for a moment. We had a staring contest. Various facial expressions were made.
We can try smiling or try getting angry. Doesn't really matter, I don't think.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. The man got angry and glared at me. It's a little scary. This can't be. I wanted to cry. The man reflected in the mirror gave a smile that looked almost tearful as well. A pathetic face. I became a guy? Muttering that, something suddenly hit me. Hey, where's the bathroom?
She probably wants to go look at her dick.
There's one in each of our rooms, right? I won't understand if you say each of our rooms. The woman shook her head as though shocked. Each of our rooms means each of our rooms. Where are they? Where? You already know that, don't you? It's no good. Our conversation's going nowhere. I started running. If this building is the same as the one in the dream I had before, I have at least a general idea of where it is. While running, I thought, it's a little hard to run, isn't it? I found the bathroom and rushed inside. It seems my body's sensations are different than usual. My shoulder slams into the door frame at full speed. It hurts, but now's not the time for that. I opened the bathroom door. Timidly, I brushed my body over my clothes. It was solidly built. But it seems my body didn't get that much bigger. Medium build, average height, somewhere around there. For a woman like me, that was plenty built, however. My chest doesn't stick out the way it should. It's a little bit of a shock. She doesn't have any boobs.
Right. I guess that might feel weird.
There was a sense of incompatibility with my lower half. To be precise, the area between the legs. My cheeks grew hot with embarrassment. No, this isn't the time to feel embarrassed by this. With my heart beating a little fast, I took off the belt on my trousers. I pulled down the zipper. I lowered the trousers. What? This is unpleasant. Yeah, this is an emergency situation. An emergency situation. While I desperately persuade myself, I gripped the elastic of the waistband and pulled it back. I stole a glance downward to the interior of my pants and... Kya! The world spins. My consciousness fades. Geez, I don't want to believe anything anymore.
She saw her own dick and fainted.
When I opened my eyes, I was looking at an unfamiliar ceiling. I'd been sleeping in bed Mm. My head hurt. I checked it right away and felt a bump. Moreover, what a horrible dream. Becoming a man, that doesn't happen outside of nightmares. Just then, I sensed a person's presence right next to me. There were eyes staring this way. I rose with a start. The person standing there was not Yomagi, nor Miyazumi, nor Yuni. It was Inubushi Kiko. I jumped up in a panic. But Inubushi Kiko looked even more panicked than I was. Maybe she had been surprised when I suddenly jumped up, but her body shook so hard she fell from the chair she was sitting on. She looked at me with frightened eyes. She didn't look the least bit like a brutal murderer. Thanks to that, I relaxed and lowered my guard completely. It seemed I had fallen into another dream. Fainting in a dream and then waking up in a dream, it was a strange feeling. I sighed deeply. I'm sorry for surprising you. Bowing slightly, Inubushi Kiko shook her head. Somehow, she gave off a rather docile impression. She was completely different from what I had imagined after reading the file. Of course, it was a dream after all. Inubushi Kiko stood up and walked over to the desk. I looked around the room. I had fainted in the bathroom and lost consciousness, it seemed. If they found something like that attached to the lower half of their body, I'm sure anyone else would faint too. Clinging to that small hope, I tried shifting my lower body. As I had thought, there was an incompatibility. It seemed I was still a man. It was a dream after all. I was having a dream where I was in a sphere. That was why it wasn't strange for Inubushi Kiko to be here. If it was a dream, then I would just have to defy it. That way, I'd probably wake up. Inubushi Kiko turned to face me and hesitantly offered her hand. In it was a glass. It was full of water. For a moment, I didn't know what she was doing. It seemed that she had brought some water for me, and even though I had noticed this, it took me a while to realize. I took it, confused. Thank you. Inubushi only nodded. I didn't know if she had slipped poison into the water she had brought me and was a little hesitant. But in the end, I drank it. It was a dream, so it didn't matter if there was any poison in it. I chugged it down in one gulp. Pwah! Seemed to be thirstier than I had expected. The water was delicious. Inubushi quietly stared at me without breathing. She seemed to be looking at my complexion. Inubushi-san? When I called her, Inubushi shook her head. What? Inubushi looked around the room and picked up the notepad on top of the desk. She enthusiastically wrote something on it. Not long after, she hesitantly presented me with the notepad. I took it with quite understanding why. Not Inubushi. Hattori. What was written? Was written.
Take your time.
Now that you mention it, you can't speak, can you? But Hattori? What's that about? Inubushi took back the notepad and this time ran the pen over it slightly rudely. My name is Suzukage Hattori. Suzukage Hattori? girl nodded sharply. But I was sure I hadn't seen her name wrong. This girl, she's Inabushi Kiko. Was she lying? If so, why? I observed the girl who had introduced herself as Hattori. The girl turned her eyes toward me. It didn't seem like she was lying. Then it occurred to me. This girl had dissociative identity disorder. Inside Inabushi Kiko, there were multiple personalities. In other words, Suzukaji Hattori was a separate personality of Inabushi Kiko. Furthermore, it's possible that whenever she became Suzukaji Hattori, she suffered a temporary loss of speech. If aphasia was a mental problem, then Inabushi Kiko being able to talk while Suzukaji Hattori couldn't was very possible. Another possibility was that the main personality, Inabushi Kiko, had become unable to talk for some reason. In the meanwhile, I decided to go along with her. It didn't matter how many times I tried saying, "You are Inabushi Kiko" to her, as the Hattori personality probably didn't even know her. It had been established that, in the case of a person with multiple personalities, the different alters were not conscious of each other. No matter how one might try to explain it, it would probably be useless. I felt a little sorry for her. It was possible she was suffering in her own way, too. No, wait. This was something from inside my dream. It was not certain that the real Inabushi Kiko had another personality named Suzukaji Hattori within her. Yes, this is just a dream I'm having. It was only a dream, so it shouldn't be possible for anything to happen. I understand then. Suzukaji Hattori-chan? I tried to talk as gently as possible. The girl blinked in surprise and answered my call. My name, do you know it? Even if it was an absurd dream, it originated from the experiences and observations in my own brain's memory. In other words, even if they were unconscious, there were things I knew, there were things I had experienced in the past, even if I didn't remember them. Before uni, the uni that was at Sphaya, that is, had called me Satoru. Had I met a man named Satoru in the past? I shouldn't know anyone called Satoru well enough to see them in my dreams. Hattori tilted her head. She probably didn't know. What to do? At a loss, I put a hand to my face, and a dull pain ran through my head as I touched the bump at the back of it. Ow, 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 ow. Hattori quickly got up from my bedside to pick up a wet towel. She gently placed it under my head. It was pleasantly cool. The pain receded. Ah, thank you. Hattori nodded sharply, expressionless. Ah, have you come too? This time, the brown-skinned woman entered the room. She saw me being nursed by Hattori and laughed gently. Earlier, you suddenly let out a scream and fainted. I was surprised. And with your trousers undone. The woman's smile became strained just for a moment. I became aghast. Now that she mentioned it, I had certainly fainted in an extremely embarrassing position. No, the body itself isn't mine. I'm sorry. I apologized by reflex. The woman was wrapped in a kind atmosphere that seemed to be able to forgive anything. Now that I thought about it, I still hadn't heard her name. You haven't told me your name yet, have you? The woman's expression became a little tenser. I see. What does I see mean, I wonder? However, the woman changed back to a radiant attitude at once. My name is Utsumi Callie. Nice to meet you. Callie. I was wondering if she was half Japanese after all. A man I had never heard before.
A name.
Oh. Well, I keep on going back and forth between man and woman. A name I had never heard before. Why were people I didn't know appearing, even though it was in my dream? You are? Huh? Can you tell me your name? I'm Fuyakawa Kokoro. As I expected. Huh? Itsumi bent down and glanced at my face. Her eyes were fixed, looking straight at me. Calm down and listen, okay? What? You have DID. Have you heard of it? Disassociative. I know what it is. I see. It's obvious to think that. You are Fuyukawa Kokoro-san, and at the same time, Yukido Satsura-san. I said, I know. Interrupting Utsami's words, I got up from my bed. I had DID? Yes, that might have been true. Seeing as how, even though I was a woman, I had a man's body. But something like that didn't matter. This was a dream, so having DID wasn't a big deal. It was probably because I was unconsciously thinking about Inabishi Kiko. Now that I thought about it, before I got onto the plane that crashed, I remembered being really nervous. The nervousness over interviewing a murderous monster, such a rare and horrific killer, had burned itself onto my brain, and thus I had a dream like this.
Oh, Satoru, you're awake.
This time it was Uni who entered the room. After seeing me, he called me Satoru without hesitation. Yukido Satoru. I was mistakenly called that even at the shelter cabin.
Hey.
Uni hesitantly looked up at me. It was probably because I scared him earlier.
Are you okay?
I wanted to say the same thing right back at him. Uni didn't look so good. His face was awfully pale.
Satoru, right?
I let out a sigh. Explaining that I was Fuyukawa Kokoro yet again was a bother. He wouldn't believe me anyway. I have DID after all. It was a dream, so who I was didn't matter. That's right. It seems that way. My head was throbbing again a little. Was this pain a dream too? Even though the feeling was so clear. Thinking that way, I got a little scared. This is really a dream, isn't it? My eyes met Hattori's. DID. There was a possibility that I really had DID. In that case, it would explain why I was at Sphaya as if it were natural. It could also explain the attitude Utsumi and the rest had taken toward me. This dream, this institute, Inabishi, and Utsumi, they're all too real. Were dreams this vivid even possible? Lucid dream? My head hurts. I'm confused again. For the sake of argument, if this is a dream, where's the real me right now? Maybe the plane accident was a dream as well. No, I think that part is real. I certainly got in an airplane accident, and right now I should be sleeping in this shelter cabin on a snowy mountain. But that newspaper, in reality, there's no explanation for it. Just what was that? You could also say, this is reality and the shelter cabin is a dream. It's possible to think that too. Is my real body a boy's? Which would mean that I was a boy originally. Meaning that the personality of the woman called Fuyukawa Kokoro was born inside and only existed in the man named Yukido Satoru. I'm sorry. Let me be alone for a while. No matter how much I think I can't understand any of this. I don't want to think about anything anymore. If this is a dream, I want to hurry and wake up. Staggering, I left the room. I left the wide central room. I exited into the kitchen. Thinking I would calm down on the sofa, I headed toward the inner living area. Kya! Hattori was standing right behind me. Even though I said I wanted to be alone, it seemed she followed me. Hattori saw me jump back and tilted her neck. I wonder if she was doing it on purpose. I wonder if she was trying to make fun of me. Jeez. It's impossible to rest like this. Having no other options, I decided to explore this institution. Moving to and fro, I finished walking around without thinking about anything. That being said, I had already gone over the inside of this institute once before. Now then, what should I do? I quickly looked around the room. The only places I hadn't been to now were the front entrance and one of the 4 doors, the ones in the corners of the living area.
Check the door, leave through the front entrance.
I don't know. What do you want to do?
Just check the door, I think.
Alright. I decided to check the leftmost door from the entrance. Hattori didn't follow me. My gait slightly unsure, I walked in the direction of the living area. The light in the room was already on. The structure of the room looked exactly the same as the 2 rooms I had seen earlier. I didn't feel anyone's presence. The inside was silent. Several articles of women's clothing had been left spread across the bed. They'd probably get wrinkled if they were left like that. It was a very private atmosphere somehow. In other words, the 4 rooms at the corners of this institution are for private use. Which means that in this building there are at least 4 private rooms. In each room there is a single bed. The number of people this institute can accommodate is 4, is what it means. The scale of the building itself is quite large, so it's surprising the number of people it accommodates is so few. Also, this institute doesn't seem to hold the presence of many people either. I haven't met anyone in Sophia besides those 3. The other people involved with Sophia, the doctors and nurses, for example, where were they and what were they doing? Perhaps the extra people didn't appear because it was a dream. Or is there an unusual situation happening? I shook my head a little. I'm just going around in circles. I left the room. I saw Hattori standing in the middle of the living area, not doing anything in particular, just standing still, as if in a daze. Uni and Utsumi had returned to the kitchen. Did Utsumi bring in some tea? Uni looked like he was happy. Now then, what should I do? It seemed that the rooms at the four corners are all identical. Therefore, there shouldn't be any need to check the one I hadn't been to yet, as they're all the same. So I went to take a look at the front entrance. The door didn't have a knob or any sort of handle attached to it. It must be an automatic door, but a very peculiar one, unlike anything I've ever seen before. It's made of some sort of metal, but that's about all I can make out of it. I wonder how thick it is. It seems to be so sturdy that a shell shot from a tank would have a little chance of taking it down. I stood in the front door.
Front of the door.
Oh. I stood in front of the door.
Just kind of skipped a few words there.
What spread out in front of me when I opened it was an image of hell in black and white. In the whirling plumes of snow, countless snowflakes were madly racing past each other. It was a terrible storm. Reflected in my eyes were only the countless white particles and the darkness between them. It was already impossible to see anything more than a few meters away. The harsh, freezing wind felt as if it would blow through me. My cheeks and neck felt as though they were being cut by countless shards of glass. It became impossible to breathe. The chilly air was so intense that I could feel my lungs and trachea choking on it, as it made its way through them. I felt that if I stayed here for even 3 seconds more, I would surely die. I'm pretty sure that wasn't even an exaggeration. Panic-stricken, I turned and started back toward the building. It was nice and warm inside. This was the kind of warmth that a human could survive in. Phew. I breathed a sigh of relief. The thundering roar of the wind was so loud that it could be clearly heard even indoors. I hadn't noticed the sound of it until now, but that's probably because my mind had been preoccupied with other things. Anyway, I doubt anyone could be outside in this kind of weather. Except for the truly curious or adventurous, there's just no way anyone would venture out in the middle of that snowstorm. Utsumi and Uni were drinking tea while making idle chatter. It might have been because my body had become chilled, but I really wanted something warm to drink. Besides that, I wonder how those two can be talking so calmly. This place is an institution to keep the mentally ill in isolation, after all. The two didn't seem to have any intention of stopping my aimless wandering. No, they might want to stop me, I can't be sure. Hattori, who should have been standing in the living area until now, is gone. As soon as I started looking for her, she disappeared through one of the 4 doors. It was the only room I hadn't been to. It might have been the room belonged to Hattori. Since I didn't have anywhere else to go, I thought I'd take a little peek. Casually, I followed after Hattori. Just as I expected, this room had the same layout as the other 3. The only thing different is that this room didn't have the feeling that it was being lived in. Also that the sheets on the bed were in disarray. There wasn't anything else. The top of the desk was bare, and there weren't any changes of clothes to be found. In the first place, there wasn't any human warmth. A cold, dreary atmosphere enfolded the room. What does Hattori Inabushi Kiko think about while living in this room of hers? Hattori herself wasn't in the room. Just where did she go? Just then, a sound came from the bathroom. Wondering what it was, I peeked inside. Hattori was there. Water was gushing from the sink as she stared at the mirror. Her entire body was shivering. Holding her head, she yanked and tore at her own hair. The sounds of Hattori's wild breathing resounded in the bathroom. Hattori-chan? Glancing at her face, I became speechless. The expression I saw was full of anguish. Her mouth was open as though in a voiceless scream. Her eyes opened wide as she glared at the Hattori in the mirror. Hattori-chan, what's wrong? I put my hand on her shoulder and she shook it off violently. I lost my balance and bumped my head against the sink. The continuous dull pain in the back of my head became sharp as if it had been stabbed there. Ugh! The water from the sink, which had been on the verge of overflowing before, was now spilling over. I was soaked. But now wasn't the time to be bothered by that. Hattori's long black hair had become disheveled as she violently shook her head. Is she deranged? It won't be good if this continues. Hattori-chan, calm down. Ugh! Hattori began to moan, louder and louder. Her voice? Ah! It can't be. Was the Inabushi Kiko personality awakening? If that's so, it'll be dangerous. I looked about my surroundings and searched for a means of escape. Before the murderous monster awakened, it might be better to run away. But... Ah! Hattori's voice slowly transformed into a scream. A ghastly shriek issued from her mouth. Ah! It's useless. I can't get free. Hattori-chan? Making an immediate decision, I gripped her in a chokehold. No! In my arms, Hattori's entire body struggled violently. Even so, in spite of all the strength she was exerting, she seemed quite frail. No, it's me who's become stronger. It's probably because my body is a man's.
That's sexist.
And then, the strength abruptly left Hattori's body. Hattori-chan? Looking across to the mirror to see what was going on, it appeared that Hattori had lost consciousness. What's wrong? Possibly because she had heard the commotion, Utsumi came running, practically flying into the bathroom. While holding up Hattori in my arms, I explained the situation to Utsumi.
Read.
I see. So that's what's happened. While muttering that, Utsumi held out a hand. I'll help. Shall we carry her to the bed? Utsumi and I both carried Hattori to her bed and laid her down. You can go back now, Fuyikawa-san. Huh? I'll watch over her. You're tired as well, right? You can go to sleep now. Saying that, Utsumi took something out of her pocket. She presented it to me. They were pills, sealed inside a silver-colored package. There were 2 white pills. Before you sleep, you should take these. You'll be able to sleep very well. That would mean that these were sleeping pills, wouldn't it? I took the pills from Yutsumi. Please take care of the rest then. Yes, good night. I left the bed and went toward the door. Uni was standing beyond the door, which had been left open. Surely Uni must have gotten curious as well and came to check the state of things. I wonder how long he's been standing there.
Hey, what happened?
No, it was nothing. I was tired and I didn't have the energy to explain. Besides, I didn't want to give Uni anything to worry about unnecessarily. Well, shall we go? I placed my hand on Uni's shoulder and urged him out of the room. Uni obediently followed. Hattori, who was stretched on the bed, appeared to turn over in her sleep as soon as the door shut. Fu! I returned to the place which Utsumi had told me was Yukido-kun's room and let out a sigh. The floor plan of the bedroom was the same as Hattori's. Why did she suddenly become deranged? And then there was her voice. Hattori had let out a scream. Even though she was supposed to have aphasia, her vocal cords are still able to function, is what it means. That she doesn't normally speak is probably due to mental factors, as I thought. Or it might be that Inabushi Kiko had awakened. If that's the case, is it alright if she's not restrained? Isn't it dangerous? I feel insecure. Aha! I sighed deeply once again. Too many things were happening. In the shelter cabin and in this dream sphere. I don't have time to calm down. Somehow, I'm awfully tired. It might be better if I just get some rest like Utsumi told me to. I take out the pills Utsumi handed to me.
Alright. We're gonna stop right here before we make a decision. Let's see. So we'll have to find out what's going on next time. We keep jumping bodies for some reason.
Oh, is she gonna take the pills or what?
Well, I mean, we'll decide next time. But if you like this video, then give it a like and, comment and subscribe.
Alright, thanks for listening.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.
See ya.